Welcome to The Wise View. Use our IQ to give you our point of view. Some things we thought you knew, other things you believed in and found out it wasn't true. So me and my crew make it do what it do. We came to chop up game with y'all for a few. So take heed and get a clue and check us out. The Wise View. The Wise View. The Wise View. The Wise View.
Anytime the black man attempts to change the slave image, he will scare white people.
It is going to come. The question is, will it take the form of the righteous indignation tied to love and justice, or will it take the form of raw rage tied to revenge and bigotry?
Black man should control the politics of his own community and control the politicians who are in his own community.
God is going to punish you if you don't stand up for what is right.
See, one of the things that I try to do in life is use a dictionary. I like to look up words and get a full understanding of words, because one of the things that I've come to realize in life is that if you are taking a word and using it based on how you heard somebody else use it, you may very well be misusing the word. For instance, we always hear about the N-word, right? And we often hear the different pronunciations of the word and try to explain, and I say try to explain, exactly what that word means to us as individuals. And then there are some of us who stop using the N-word in public, but use it in private. But what's the point in trying to change using a word when you still treat people as such, based on the definition that you gave? Because if it really meant what you said it meant, a term of endearment, then why don't you continue to use it? You don't continue to use it because others around you stop using it, because it doesn't mean the same thing to them, or so they say. But typically they'll say that it doesn't mean the same thing to them based on the people who they're around, because they don't want to be ill-perceived by those around them, because they want to be liked. So when I hear the term radical Islam, I get offended. But do you? Why don't you get offended? Because it doesn't apply to you, but it does apply to a group of people. People who many of you know, who you have never seen act in any capacity whatever or whatsoever, because they both mean the same thing depending on how you're framing the concept that you want people to begin to see. But in no way, shape, form whatsoever have you seen those people who you know act in a radical manner. Well, at least not in the manner that has been given to you by the media. See, the media gives you a definition of radical Islam based on what they want you to believe, because it's important that they plant the seed in your mind that the term radical means something negative, means something out of pocket, means something out of control. And even though the word radical, as defined in Merriam, Webster, Cambridge, Oxford, Wikipedia, and any of those other ones, even though they define clearly the word radical as being extreme, extreme doesn't necessarily mean that it's off-key. Because somebody can be totally devoted to a thing and be very extreme in its application to their daily life. If you look up the word radical, and I'm going to give you the definition, I'm going to read it from right here. I'm going to tell you what the word means according to various dictionaries, and let you be the judge. A very different from the usual or traditional act. Extreme. Favoring extreme changes in existing views, habits, conditions, or institutions. Associated with political views, practices, and policies of extreme change. Advocating extreme measures to retain or restore a political state of affairs. Now, so far, when you listen to that definition and you look at all that is going on in the world around us, nationwide, right? Internationally, it sounds like a whole lot of radicalism going on to me. Yet, that term is not attached to any of these events, except when they involve a Muslim. Except when they involve a Muslim. And I want you to think about that for a minute. I've often heard throughout the years of my life that if there's anything that you want black folks not to know, you put it in a book. Because we tend to not read. We tend to not go to the library to research. We tend to invest our time, energy, and efforts in the internet, social media, all of those venues which can fabricate information more than the evening news. Yeah. Because see, the thing about the internet is that you see it constantly. It rolls through constantly. People take pictures of different actors and athletes and so on and so forth, and they put text with that. And because that text is attached to that person's picture, you automatically think that that person said it. You automatically believe that that person ascribes to that thinking. Much like what we see on the news. I've seen incidents take place all over the world that show up on the evening news, that show up on the front page of a world news magazine, or the Daily News, or some of these other so-called news networks. And you walk away from that, sometimes in disbelief, but you're in the mindset of disbelief because of what you have seen, but you are not in the mindset of disbelief for what they are showing you. And what I mean is that we'll sit down and we'll watch the news and we'll come away from that thinking that that is a true event. That what they showed you is the truth. Because you know that correspondent. Oh, I've seen, him around the neighborhood. I've seen him doing the news. So it's got to be true. Because he's telling you. Why would he tell us a lie? Why would he tell you the truth? But the other part of that is the whole game of mass media See, because you see a person in your community and you see them filming events that you know just happened, whether you missed the event or not, you see there's the residue of something that just happened. Whether what just happened was staged, whether what just happened was actual, if you didn't see it happen, you really don't know what happened unless you talk to somebody who was in the immediate area who maybe saw it, but if they didn't see it, and even if they did see it, they'd be telling you what they saw through their own lens, through their own belief system. They would be telling you about the victim based on what they thought about the victim. They would tell you about the perpetrator of the wrongdoing based on what they think about the perpetrator. What they know actually and what they know because somebody else said it. Much like what you find every day, especially as it pertains to the religion of Al-Islam. We keep hearing this term, radical Islam, when there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no such book that teaches radical Islam. There's no such religion as radical Islam. And I've even taken the term radical and attached it to other religions, Christianity, Judaism, Catholicism, Buddhism, Taoism. And none of the definitions of any of those religions are the same or similar in any capacity with that which you find when it's attached to Islam. None. As a matter of fact, they're not radical Christians, they're not radical Jews, they're not radical Buddhists at all. They're people who have taken a radical approach to the practice. To the practice. Period. And what that means is this, and I'm going to read the definition so you can fully understand. I'm going to read you two definitions. One definition comes from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and it reads, very different from the usual or traditional, extreme, favoring extreme changes in existing views, habits, conditions, or institutions, associated with political views, practices, and policies of extreme change, advocating extreme measures to retain or restore a political state of affairs. Now, to me, that sounds like politics. That's what radical sounds like to me. It sounds to me like I just defined the whole political atmosphere of these presidential candidates. That's what it sounds like to me. Advocating extreme measures. Punch him in the nose. Throw him out. No, he can't come in. He's a fool. He's stupid. He's weak. Listen to all the terms that are being used in the political era. And ask yourself, doesn't that sound like this? Advocating extreme measures? I don't hear men and women. I hear children. I hear juvenilistic behaviors. I hear radicalism in all that I see before me today. But yet the news is not attaching the term radical to any of this behavior. They're attaching it to a religion of peace. And they want you and I to believe that it's true. But how many Muslims do you know? How many Muslims have you met? How many of you even know that you've met a Muslim? But none of you can say that you've seen their conduct. Think about how many people who you see flashed across your television screen, who you see flashed across the magazine, and the newspapers, or online, and social media. Think about all those faces you have seen and ask yourself how many people has even said they even know these people. How many scenes have you seen where there have been these explosions or these horrific incidences where lives were taken? The same pictures that you see in the daily news, that you see in the so-called news networks, you see the same thing in film footage, in movies that we see every day. But you don't question that. It looks like they took an excerpt from a motion picture and put it onto the evening news and told you this is what just happened. And in many cases that is what's happened, but you don't question that. You rather go along to get along, and then you spew that hateful rhetoric from your mouth and bring harm to others, and you don't even know it to be true, but you formed an opinion based on what somebody else told you. And you don't have facts to support it. You go on the internet and you get that information to support what it is that you believe and what it is you just stated. And I can do the exact same thing. But how many of us really have the facts of those things? Well, I can stand here and factually tell you that I am not a terrorist. I can stand here and factually tell you that it's nothing about Islam that I have ever learned entail harming others in the capacity that you have been led to believe. None of that. There's no such thing as radical al-Islam in any capacity. One of the things that I've learned throughout the years of my life is that words and understanding words can either damage, destroy, build up, desecrate, define. I guess when you look at words, they mean a lot. And I found throughout the years that I've used words that I've heard other people use, but that I've read somewhere. I guess that would be the same as other people using, because if I read it somewhere, somebody else put it there. But I found that these words that were used in a context where a person was trying to relay some information to others, right? And then I found that when I used that same word, because I thought I understood what that word meant and was able to use it in a similar context, or what I perceived as being similar, that maybe I wasn't right in how it was being used, because then I would hear someone else use it, the same word, in another context. And they used it in a context of a discussion that was much like what I was trying to use that word in before, but it didn't come out the same way. It actually, in some cases, didn't even make the mark on what I was trying to do in delivering the information to others. So when I look at words, I look at them a lot differently today, because what I do, I go into the dictionary and I look them up. Such as the word radical. See? Every time I hear the word radical, it's always applied to Islam. It's never applied to Christianity, Judaism, Catholicism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and any of the other worldwide practiced religions. It's always attached to Islam. Now, there's no such thing as radical Islam. No such thing at all. None. But the media has convinced you that such exists. And not only has it convinced many non-Muslims, it has even convinced some Muslims that there is an existence of something called radical Islam. If that be the case, show me the book. Because I read the Quran, and I see nothing in the Quran that says radical Islam. It's the religion of Al-Islam, the religion practiced by Muslims worldwide. Al-Islam. I don't see radical Islam. I've never seen that book. But it's a term that dons the cover of so many newspapers, so many magazines, so many headlines on the so-called world news tonight. But what world is that news for? What people are they trying to convince? Everybody. Because we become divided even within ourselves, because we begin to see ourselves differently because the media put it out there. But that's just like saying that you found something on the internet and believed it to be true. So you can't watch the evening news and that's fabricated also? Everything that's presented before us is fabricated. From the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the air we breathe, the people we vote into office. None of it. None of it is real. The only thing real in this whole equation is you. And if you have absorbed all of the fabrication, all of the propaganda, because that's what it is, it's just propaganda. Even the movies you go and see, and we go and see all these movies and we get all caught up in all of these movies and you know, say, well, it's only film. It's not film. It's forming an opinion. It's helping you shape and define yourself. Just think back when Scarface came out, and I asked this question before. I said, well, when did the movie Scarface come out? And not the one from the 20s. The Scarface. The Tony Montana character. When did that come out? And when did powder cocaine hit South Central LA? Never thought of that, did you? Well, what I'm talking about are words, and I'm talking about how the media conditions us to believe certain things, and we jump on the bandwagon and we begin to believe those things. Even though we have no proof ourselves, we make the media our proof. But all these characters that they keep putting on TV and telling you this is the one who did this is the one who did that, that's what's going over in this part of the world, this is what's going over in that part of the world, and they show you pictures and you believe that, but then you turn around and watch a movie and the same depiction you find in this movie, this film, you found on the news as well. No videotape. Nobody has a cell phone and recording on their videotape, and you don't have an actual person showing this is what happened. This is, oh yeah, I know this person. And no, you don't even, these people aren't even known. These people don't even have any families. They're characters. Where did they come from? But you believe it. You believe that this is truly what happened. This is what this country is doing. This is what this group of people is doing. You truly believe it. But you have no evidence other than the internet. And you don't question it. You have the news. Well, I read this paper every day. I know this correspondent. The correspondent is real. Therefore, what he's presenting, or what she's presenting, has to be real. It can't be phony. Can it? The word radical. And came in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Very different from the usual or traditional. Extreme. Favoring extreme changes in existing views, habits, conditions, or institutions. Associated with political views, practices, and policies of extreme change. Advocating extreme measures to retain or restore a political state of affairs. Does that sound like Alice Slanton, or does that sound like what's going on in our nation today? You watch the news that you believe in. You've seen the presidential candidates and their conduct. You've seen those things. Doesn't that sound to you like advocating extreme measures to retain or restore a political state of affairs? What are they trying to restore? Okay. So each time that I came before you, I read the same definition of the word radical. And each time I wore something different. Yes, and there was a point. And the point was this. The first thing you did was, when I started, was listen to what I was saying. Right? Me. The first thing that really happens is that you look at how someone is dressed. Now, for those of you who know me, know of me, who have heard me speaking before, who know something about my background, the likelihood of you seeing me with my hat turned all the way around is pretty slim. But I've known to wear it in that capacity. So for those of you who are familiar with me, looked at it and said, okay, well, what's up with this? Right? You know, what's going on with Shabir in this episode? What message is he trying to send here? And then I began to read the definition of the word radical, you know, along with some other dialogue about my learnings. And then I came out dressed with a suit. When I came out in the suit, I read the same definition. I presented it a little differently, but I pretty much read the same exact definition. But I was dressed differently. And once again, you looked at what I had on, right? And then you listened to my dialogue. And then I came out wearing an izar. And again, same information, but just dressed differently. And you look at what I was wearing. And this time you probably spent more time looking at what I had on and listening to what I said. Because for those of you who know that I am Muslim, right? At that point you probably said, okay, this is going to go somewhere else because he is Muslim. That's what you've been conditioned to do. That's exactly what you've been conditioned to do. You don't look at any other group of people in that capacity, except for those who you know have hatred towards you. So when we talk about racism, when we talk about white hatred, when we talk about black hatred, those things in the forefront of your mind. Now you have been conditioned to have Islamic hatred in the forefront of your mind. Many of you have Muslim friends. How many of you have Muslim friends who even talk the dialogue of being radical towards America? None of them. Most of you who are black, who have black friends, will hear radical discussion in terms of what needs to change within our government for us as a people. Period. No different than a non-Muslim would have. But yet you have been convinced that I, and millions of other Muslims are anti-American, which couldn't be further from the truth. They too are American citizens. They too are American citizens. You don't question anything. You just go along with it. And you look at each and every one of us as being an enemy. Think about it. Think about what it feels like to be black and be identified as an enemy to others. So when whites, Asians, Latinos, and others look at us, the first thing they do is the same thing you have been conditioned to do with Muslims. The same exact thing. Do you like it? No. It's embedded in the fabric of America now. Hatred. I mean, it's always been embedded in the fabric from the beginning of the Americas. When the colonies came, they brought that along with them. Hatred of others. Taking others' land and still labeling them as the heathens, as the natives, as the animals. Their land taken from them, us taken from our land. But nobody wants us to talk about that. Let it go. But you don't like it when you're lumped into the same category as others. And yet you're doing the same exact thing. The same thing. It's no longer worthwhile that I believe in God. But if I don't practice your religion, I'm a threat. I'm, again, a heathen. Because I don't practice what you practice. But that's a whole nother show that I'll be doing next. Man of God will be the title of that show. What makes you a man of God? What? Who puts you in a position to be a man of God? What does that mean to our society, to the black community, to society as a whole, but specifically to the black community? Think about it. Just want you to think about it, because that is going to be my next show. But most importantly, what I want you to get out of this is that you cannot continue to go through life traveling the path that you are with a level of hatred, judgment, discord as you have. You can't continue that course and think that anything is going to change. You have to have your own mind. Pick up a book. Start reading some things. Start filtering through some things. Read portions of the book and look around you and ask yourself, is this book consistent with what you see today? Is what these people are saying who want to lead this country referenced in this book? Is it consistent? You'll see that many of them have taken pages from others. They're merely regurgitating what others have said. Other successful candidates who went on to become president, governor, whatever they are. That's part of studying. That's part of the game. You don't recreate the wheel. You say what others before you have said. Because that's what got them their seats. Read and see their histories. Look back on the candidates' history from the beginning of their careers. There's plenty of information on YouTube. There's plenty of books. There's plenty of footage and things that you can find. And you formulate your own opinion. Because if nothing else, you can watch something over and over again, and eventually you'll sort through it and you'll hear the truth.